Group's in room 411. I was downstairs in the basement trying to clean the drain in the air conditioner when I heard the phone ring. Natalie was washing dishes in the kitchen, so I figured she would pick up the phone. I heard her pick it up through the vent on the second floor. Hi, Katie, it's good to hear from you. How long has it been? I didn't like Katie. She'd been Natalie's friend since high school, and I'd always had bad feelings about her. Luckily, we moved away from Lancaster shortly after we got married. I wish it had been a little farther away. Yeah, that's what I thought. 8 years really did go by fast. What's going on? I didn't like the way this conversation developed, but I only had one side of the conversation. Katie, hold on a second. Steve's working downstairs in the basement. Let me go and close the door. I'll be right back. I heard Natalie hang up the phone as she walked across the room to close the door. I crossed the basement and quickly picked up the wall-mounted extension phone. Hi, Katie, I'm back. So, what were you going to tell me about? Nat, there's a medical device conference next weekend at the Lancaster Holiday Inn, and guess who's coming? You're kidding. They're both going to be there? Both of them. They're coming Friday night and staying all weekend. How do you know that? Jared called me this morning and he was dying to see you. He asked me to call and see if I could talk you into coming to Lancaster for the weekend. It'll just be you, me, Jared, and Martin. I had a rag on the end of the phone receiver. I really wanted to jump over the receiver and grab Kathy by the neck. What the hell was she suggesting? I don't know, Kathy. If I can get away, I'd love to come over. I'm going to have to fondle Steve for a while. As soon as I know, I'll call you back. You remember how good a time we had at the last convention when they were here, don't you, Natalie? You're damn right I remember. Every time I make the kids breakfast in the morning. I can't believe you had the nerve to call that kid Jared. Why not? Steve has no idea. He thinks Jared belongs to him, even though they don't look anything alike. Damn, this conversation was getting worse as it went along. I quickly went over everything in my head and found out that Natalie and Katie had an affair with these two guys 8 years ago, and Natalie ended up getting pregnant with Jared. She passed the baby off as mine and naturally never said anything about the affair. Now Natalie and Katie were planning to get back together with these guys. Katie, I'll call you back as soon as I can. If I can't get away for the night, I can at least get there for the day. That would be better than nothing. All right. Call me as soon as you know. After we all hung up, I had a little time to think. We had 3 kids. Jenny and Lynn were in high school, and Jared had come along about 8 years ago. The 2 girls are good-looking and savvy. They are studying hard in school and are both preparing for college. Jared, on the other hand, is uninspired. He has no interest in learning or sports. I liked Jared, even with his flaws. Natalie opened the basement door. How are you doing down there, Steve? Are you ready for coffee? I'm almost done. I'll be right up. I think I'm going to take a shower before I do anything else. After a long, hot shower, I sat down in front of the TV with my family. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. This wasn't a little mistake Natalie had made and regretted. This was something she had done intentionally and planned to do again. I didn't know if I wanted to stop it and maintain the status quo or if I wanted to fix it. If I decided to fix it, I had to figure out how. I felt really stupid, because in 20 years of marriage, it had never even occurred to me that Natalie might be screwing around with someone. Steve, I talked to Kathy from Lancaster today. She asked me to come down and spend the weekend with her. Do you have any problem with that? No, not really. I'll be busy at work, so as long as my parents can watch the kids, it should be fine, on one condition. What's that? Make sure you take your cell phone in case you have any problems, okay? Thanks, honey. I'll take my cell phone with me, and I promise I won't have any problems. The Volvo station wagon doesn't break down, and I can take lots of goodies in it for shopping. I'll probably go Friday morning and be back Sunday night. Is that okay? Sounds like fun to me. Have fun. Natalie went into the kitchen, and I overheard her calling Katie to confirm their weekend plans. She didn't seem at all bothered by the fact that she was cheating or that there might be consequences. I told her that I wanted to do a little computer work before I went to bed, and that I would be up later. It wasn't that hard to find the website for the East Coast Medical Equipment Dealers Conference in Lancaster. Everything about the conference was there. All the displays were listed with a floor map. They had a list of lectures and workshops with times and locations. They had a list of all the attendees with their hotel room numbers listed. Jared Kramer and Martin Blank lived in room 411 from Friday through Monday. I found home addresses and phone numbers for both of them in Baltimore. I found a company that offered DNA tests by mail. The tests range from paternity confirmation to probable national origin. The cost of most tests was less than $100. Samples could be taken at home and mailed in with a check or paid online. I filled out the application forms on the website and paid for the 4 paternity tests with my PayPal. After printing out the collection instructions, I gathered everything I needed to get the samples. I printed a mailing label and prepared a padded envelope for priority mailing. I prepared several CD mailings and prepared a stack of blank CDs. Jared's and Martin's wives would probably want a copy of the evening's event recordings. I worked for a corporate security consulting firm. My work schedule was flexible, but since I had some free time, I just decided to take a week's vacation. Another nice perk of the job was the availability of various equipment that I could use to gather information. By then, I had pretty much decided that the marriage was over. The fact that 8 years ago she had had an affair and forced me to raise a child was bad, but the way she and Kathy joked about making a fool of me was too much. There was no way I could forgive that. Now she was doing it again. That would have to end it for good. The next day, I collected DNA samples from the kids. They thought it was cool. Then I went to the bank and transferred almost all of my savings into a college trust fund for Jenny and Lynn, but left $12,000 in cash. I was able to set it up so that the trust was safe from my wife or a shrewd divorce attorney. I took steps to cancel all credit cards and the current account on Monday morning and opened a new account in my name only. I was going to lock up the house, so Natalie would have to find another place to sleep. I was sure she could find some legal way to get into the house, but I hoped to have some other things settled by then. We could decide about our son, Jared, later. Even though he wasn't mine, I felt some responsibility for him. I stopped by Seymour Schlump's office. Seymour had been my attorney since we came to Reading. He was fair and hard-working. I liked him. I explained the situation to him as best I could. He pressed me to make sure we had no chance of reconciliation. In addition to the divorce proceedings, I asked him to contact Jared Kramer and see if there was anything he could do about his son. I suggested that he pay $500 in monthly retroactive child support or have him take the child and raise him. His last option was for him to give up all rights to Jared so I could arrange for his adoption. I was sure he would agree to the latter. Seymour had everything he needed. I promised to send him pictures and audio recordings he could use. He gave me an email address at the office and some pre-addressed mailing lists for paper materials. Betty Moore was the most obnoxious real estate agent I have ever met. There were very few things I liked about women, but she was a hard, dedicated worker. I gave her a listing of our house and signed some powers of attorney for her. I told her that she would have to get all the signatures from Natalie herself that she would need. She laughed and assured me there would be no problem. I told her that the locksmith would give her a set of new keys. A wireless video camera disguised as a smoke detector was best for the job. I picked up 2 of them and grabbed 4 bugs. I also needed a clipboard, a set of stickers with the company logo, and 3 laptops. I put together a purchase order to replace the faulty smoke detector in room 411 on company letterhead. I would put the computers and all the equipment needed for the recording in a regular suitcase. I took a small stepladder. The Holiday Inn had room 311 available, and I booked it under a different name just for Friday. There was wireless internet access there. Walmart had the best deal on disposable cell phones. I took 2 of them, just in case. My mom and dad moved into an old farmhouse near Lebanon a few years ago. It was too big for the 2 of them, but it had always been my dad's dream. He had a big vegetable garden, chickens, and an orchard. Jared loved to go there. They were more than willing to put up with us for as long as it took. My father liked Jared, but he called him Jake. He said Jared sounded like a sandwich salesman. Jared seemed to like the name Jake better than his real name. A few years ago, Dad bought a big motorhome and a little Kia to haul him around in. He used it 3 times and lost interest. I told Daddy to gas up the motorhome and get it ready. I knew the girls would resent being away from their friends for the summer. They had one more year of high school left before college, and they wanted to finish it at a prep school in Vermont. Natalie didn't want to spend the money. Although they were a year apart in age, they were in the same grade. Don't ask. I had no idea how Jared would take it. I'll deal with the school situation later. Right now, I had other problems. At least all the kids liked being with my mom and dad. Natalie left early the next morning. She was all in tears and thanked me again for letting her spend time with her friends. I told the kids to pack for their trip and bring enough stuff with them for the whole summer. As I suspected, the girls were thrilled. I told them to take brochures from Burlington Preparatory School, and suddenly everything was rainbows. They brought all their school clothes with them just in case. Surprisingly, Jared seemed excited about the trip. Jenny came over to me and just stood there. "What do you need, Jenny? Did you pack everything?" "Dad, I'm 17. I'm not a kid anymore. Tell me what's going on." "I'm not sure I know what you mean." "Are you and Mom having problems?" "I don't think that's something I want to discuss with you. If there was something going on, your mom and I would try to keep it from you. Why don't you pack the rest of your things?" "No, Dad. I'm serious. Things look different this time. Lynn and I want to know what's going on. We think we have a right to know." I didn't want to say anything to her about it, but I knew it would come out sooner or later. "Okay, at this point, I'm not very happy with the relationship between your mother and me. Things aren't going well between us. I don't know exactly what's wrong, but I know something's wrong." "Is Mom cheating on you?" I was quiet for a long time. "I'm not sure, but I think she is." Jenny turned around and shouted up the stairs. "You were right, Lynn." "What does all this mean?" "I'd better let Lynn tell you." Lynn came down the stairs towards Jenny and me. "Tell him, Lynn. Do I have to?" "Yes, he knows, but you still have to tell him." Lynn lowered her gaze to her feet. Finally, she spoke. "About 4 months ago, I was skipping school with one of the guys from my lab class. We stopped by the house so I could buy some CDs. It was a Wednesday, which is when Mom usually goes shopping. I think you were at work in Boston. As we were walking down the street, we saw a gold SUV pull into the driveway. That guy Floyd, who works with you, got out, and my mom launched him into the house. We sat outside for almost 2 hours until he came out. I waited another 10 minutes and went into the house. Mom was taking a shower, and the bed in your room was a mess. I left and went back to school for the rest of the day. When we got home, she had dinner ready. The bed was made, and there was a stack of sheets in the dryer. I told Jenny, but she didn't believe me. For about 30 seconds, no one said anything. "Thanks for telling me, girls. It's something I never wanted to hear, but it's good that you told me." Jenny noticed a tear in my eye. She grabbed Lynn's hand, and they went upstairs without another word. Dad showed up just as the locksmith arrived. While the locks were being changed, I dumped all of Natalie's clothes, shoes, and personal belongings into 150-liter garbage bags. The bags almost completely filled the back of my car. After discussing it with the girls, I decided to stay late at work before heading to the conference. Cenerex was a company that was locally based, but was quickly spreading across the country. Their marketing people did a great job of finding potential areas for expansion, but the company couldn't train people fast enough to run it, especially in the management area. They tried to talk me into moving to a new office and offered me several different locations, trying to get me interested. Natalie refused to move and didn't even want to discuss it. If I stayed where I was, I would stay in the same position forever. Moving would give me a promotion, more money, and some power. I headed straight for the office of the company president. "Could Mr. Turcotte spare a few minutes?" "I think he can squeeze you into the schedule. Wait a minute." I always liked Turcotte's secretary, and I think she felt the same way about me. George Turcotte came out of his office and extended his hand to me. "I hope you're here to give me some good news, Steve." "Well, yes and no. Helen, get some coffee in the office and hang on to my calls for a while." "Well, what can I do for you, Steve?" "First, I've decided that I'd like to be reconsidered for one of the new management positions at the site where you think I'd be most useful." "That's great news. If you don't have a preference, I certainly have a great position I'd like you to take. How would you feel about Anchorage?" "Believe it or not, it sounds perfect. Are you okay with the first week of September?" "I think it would work. I'll personally take care of it all on Monday." "Second what?" "Well, I know it sounds weird, but I'd like Floyd Cooper to be sent there to work for me. George leaned back in his chair and started chuckling. You found out, didn't you? I don't know what you mean, George. I couldn't keep a serious expression on my face when I said that. Steve, nobody wanted to tell you anything. I didn't like what was going on, but I didn't know what to do about it. If I fired Floyd, I was afraid you would find out, and I didn't want that to happen. I decided it was best to try to keep it a secret. Unfortunately, Floyd Cooper has a long tongue. He started bragging about his affair with your wife. His secretary, Tracy, came to me and complained when Floyd started showing everyone pictures of him and your wife that he had downloaded to his computer. The legal department is working something out right now, but I've been keeping them on a short leash trying to protect you. Now that you know, I can just fire Floyd. It's a hell of a lot more practical than spending money to send him to Alaska, so you can fire him there. You're right. I was hoping I could do a little more damage, but I guess revenge is a pretty poor method of management. I'll agree to whatever you think is fair. George pressed the intercom button. Helen, put me through to Tracy Tolliver. After explaining to Tracy what we were doing, we went down to Floyd's office. Floyd was at work in Allentown. Tracy Tolliver was a very attractive woman. She was just under 30 and aging very well. The combination of her brown hair and blue eyes always fascinated me. She was only a few inches taller than 150 centimeters, but she held herself like an Amazon. I never understood how Floyd ended up with the best secretary in the entire building. I later learned that she had asked 3 times to be transferred to my office, but my secretary wouldn't give up her position. You'll need these. She held out 4 blank CDs. Look under Pending Bills and click on Stoddard. Make one for yourself, one for your attorney, one for our legal department, and one for Floyd's wife. I have the mailings ready, but I need your lawyer's name. I was stunned by her promptness. This woman knew exactly what she was doing and exactly how to do it. Seymour Schlump. His office is on Franklin Street. George and I went into Floyd's office while Tracy typed in the last address. There were 20 pictures of Floyd and Natalie making every conceivable kind of love. They were poor quality and looked like they had been taken from a webcam. It also meant that Floyd probably had a full-length video somewhere. They weren't filmed in our bedroom. George was trying to be polite about the whole thing. I was a little upset because every guy in the building had probably seen what I was looking at right now. After checking them all out, I just copied the file onto each of the blank CDs. Tracy poked her head into the room. Delete the whole damn file when you're done copying this crap. I handed Tracy the 4 discs. She put each one in an envelope and handed one back to me. Don't let your kids get their hands on these. I'll mail these 3 out Monday morning. I told George about my plans at the Holiday Inn. He didn't like the company getting involved, but he agreed to it. There was a work crew in the area on Monday, and he said he would have them stop by and take down the cameras I was going to install. George and I shook hands. I thanked him, and he thanked me. I think it was a good meeting. The drive from Reading to Lancaster took about an hour. Parking in the back lot, I checked in, paid cash, and got my keys. The first thing I did was change into my work clothes. The maid on the 4th floor was friendly enough. I showed her my work assignment, and since no one had checked into the room yet, she let me in. It only took about 20 minutes to install the fake smoke detectors. The room had 2 queen-sized beds. I was able to position the cameras to get a good shot of each bed and part of the room. Don't sweat it. I was a professional. I hoped none of the occupants would notice they were in a room with 3 smoke detectors. I went back to the room, changed clothes, and started setting up all my equipment. The pizza delivery guy got there about a half hour later. By 3 o'clock, everything was ready. Both cameras were working perfectly. The pictures were clear even in the normal light of the room. My laptop was on and working with a good high-speed connection. I had one camera set up to record every movement, and the other I triggered manually. Heck, I loved my job. I had one problem. I didn't know where Natalie was. I dialed her number on my cell phone. Hey, Steve. Isn't that a great caller ID? Hey, Natalie. Just checking to make sure everything's okay. The kids are with my parents, and I'm still at work. Where are you now? We're still at Katie's. Her husband, Ray, is going to watch their kids. Katie and I are going to spend the night at Melanie Thompson's house. There's going to be a couple other girls from school there. That should be cool. Sounds like fun. Take some pictures. In your pervert dreams. Who's this Ray guy that Katie's with? Do I know him? I think you do. That's Ray Wilson. He was on the soccer team with you. Yeah, that's right. I remember Ray. What's he look like? A little heavier, a little balder, and a little softer. Sounds like normal aging to me. Okay, Natalie, I'll let you go. Have fun and call me if you have any problems. Love you. Love you back. Bye. Bye. I did remember that Ray was big and also nasty, and if they were leaving, that meant they'd be here soon. I figured they would use Natalie's car, which was fine with me. About that time, some activity started in the room. Camera number 1 started recording exactly as it was set up. There was a lot of idle chatter about the trip and other trivia. They were both pretty big guys. Jared had dark hair and dark eyes, while Martin was a little bald and looked pale. Both seemed to be in good shape. Bug picked up the ringing of Jared's cell phone. Hi, it's the horse farm. What can I do for you? They both enjoyed it immensely. I wondered how many times they'd used it before. We're here, honey, and we can't wait to chat. What do you like? I assumed he was talking to Katie. It's good. It's the Outback. We'll meet you downstairs in about 2 minutes. At least they were going to feed them first. I sat there, seething with anger about the whole thing. If I wasn't so caught up in the mechanics of what I was doing, I'd probably be getting ready to stomp on someone. I immediately left the room and headed for the stairs at the end of the hallway. Standing around the corner of the building, I could see Natalie and Katie waiting in the lobby. They were giggling like a couple of schoolgirls. A minute later, Jared and Martin stepped out of the elevator. Natalie immediately took Jared's hand and pecked him on the cheek like a wife pecks her husband. The 4 of them got out and got into a black Mercedes. As they drove away, I looked around the parking lot and found a Volvo parked in the back. At least she was trying to act a little reserved. About 5 minutes later, I was loading trash bags with her clothes and other belongings into the passenger compartment. I was sure she'd come back from the restaurant slightly tipsy and wouldn't notice anything in the car. I left a note on the driver's seat explaining that the locks had been changed on the house and that I was taking the kids on an extended vacation. I drove to Taco Bell and fueled my system for the rest of the night. They eat ribs and I get a premium burrito. Life just isn't fair. I went back to my room and waited for the inevitable. I tried to think of a few more things I could do. I had about an hour until they came back to the room. I knew what would happen when they arrived. What I didn't know was exactly what I was going to do. Well, I had pretty much come to the conclusion that they weren't gathering to play canasta. I knew what was going to happen the rest of the evening, and I didn't like it. I thought Natalie and I had a good life. I assumed she was happy because she never complained or showed any signs of being unhappy about anything at all. She fed me stuff when Jared was born. She said she was glad we had a boy, because every man should have a son. I wondered if she had called Jared's real father and congratulated him the first chance she got. Hell, thinking about it was depressing. I regretted all the years I'd lived with this woman who could cheat on me out of the blue and feel absolutely no guilt for it. A woman who could make me raise another man's child and think it was funny. It was hard to feel any compassion for her at this point. I continued to get things ready. I was probably overprepared, but this was the only chance I had, and I didn't want to miss anything. They burst into the room, laughing and giggling. Martin had brought a bottle of something with him, and they filled 4 glasses in the first minute. Katie snatched 2 pillows off the bed and threw them on the floor. Good. Let's get started. Pleasure contest. The winner gets the first 3. There was an explosion of laughter at those words. How are we going to make threesomes when there are only 2 guys? Natalie picked up on that question. Hey, girls like to get licked too. After a prolonged giggle, Katie and Natalie took off their tops and bras and dropped to their knees in front of the guys. 2 pairs of pants and boxers fell to the floor a second later. Both girls had wide smiles on their faces as Katie yelled, "Just go!" I couldn't believe I was watching this. It was a competition that all 4 of us were enjoying to the fullest. I was not only pissed, I was jealous. The cameras were working perfectly. I had to take my attention away from the orgy to make sure I was filming everything. Since I could control the manual zoom of the camera, I recorded a couple minutes of great sucking. It was almost as good as a regular porn movie. I'm getting close. Get ready for dessert, shouted Jared. Everyone started laughing again. You see, Kathy, that's what friends are for, to share. At regular intervals, I was able to take a few pictures with the zoom camera. I watched mesmerized as my loving wife stripped off the rest of her clothes and plopped down on one of the beds. Katie quickly followed her. Although they joked about a threesome love affair, it was not yet meant to be. There was a break in room 411. Katie went to take a shower while Natalie brushed her teeth. Jared and Martin were just relaxing with a couple beers. I picked up the disposable cell phone and dialed Baltimore. Hello, Mrs. Kramer. This is Walter Perkins from the Medical Device Conference in Lancaster. Are you Jared Kramer's wife? Yes, but he's not here right now. I know. Your husband and Mr. Blank received special recognition tonight at the convention. We'd like to email you photos from the ceremony. Do you have an email account we could send them to? Mr. Blank. Sure. It's ikramer@bbw.net. That's great. Do you happen to have an email address for Martin Blank's wife so I can send the photos together? Sure. She's at bbblank@balt.com. Okay. That's all I need. You'll have the photos in a few minutes. Of course, she could have been monitoring the transmissions on the hotel's wireless network, but I didn't care because there was no connection to me. They had a break in their conversation in room 411 while they gained a second wind. So, Natalie, is your dear husband taking good care of my son instead of me? Of course he is, silly. It's been 8 years and the idiot still hasn't realized the baby isn't his. Steve lives in a world of his own. He couldn't have realized it if a letter had come in the mail. It'd be nice if you sent a birthday present or something every once in a while. Oh yeah, that would be cool. All he needs is to see something like that to give him a clue. Katie interjected. Damn it, I've got 3 snot-nosed kids running around my house and my goon isn't the father of any of them. He's so busy sipping his beer that he could never realize they're not his. Everyone laughed heartily at poor Ray, and I got a good sound clip. I was bored with all of these activities and decided to adjourn for the night. I went to www.livesexcam.com and entered an unused room. After a few entries, I had a live feed from room 411 that led to the internet site. I added a headline to the page, Natalie and Katie do Jared and Martin. My wife and her friend decided the break was over and started hardcore on the guys again. The webcast was going well and the number of viewers had passed 100. It took me about 20 minutes to get everything packed up for the exit. I left the live streaming computer for last. By then, over 400 perverts had watched the show, and I'm sure a few were recording it for later distribution. I turned off the last rig and called Ray Wilson. Hey, Ray, you sober? Yeah, who's this? Just a friend, Ray. I want you to listen to something. I played a short audio clip I made with Katie. Asshole, where'd you get that? Ray, she's in room 411 at the Holiday Inn. There's 2 guys there, and they're pretty big. So if you plan on going, take a bat or something. Otherwise, they might beat the shit out of you. Ray didn't say another word, and I heard the phone go off. I had just finished loading the navigator when Ray jumped out of the Ford pickup with a short aluminum bat and stormed into the building. I was tired, but I enjoyed the ride back. The motorhome was all ready to go. I gave Dad a set of keys to the new house. Mom went to Lancaster to visit Natalie at her parents' house, while Dad took some guys to our house and moved all the furniture and stuff out. They had plenty of room to store stuff in the shed. Mom thought it would be interesting to hear Natalie's side of the story. My parents had the number of one of the cell phones they threw away. I keep my cell phone, but planned to keep it turned off most of the time. Dad would take the stuff back to Centerex on Monday. It was too late to head out, but I wanted to be away by the time Natalie realized what was going on. We had an RV parking lot reserved near Hagerstown, from where we could get a good drive onto the highway in the morning. The girls planned the trip for us. They did a pretty good job. The only thing I did was shorten the distance between stops because the gas was killing me. I was glad I brought a lot of cash with me. We spent 3 days at Disney and we're heading to Chattanooga to see the aquarium. Jenny asked if she could call her mom. Hi, Mom, it's Jenny. Yeah, just wanted to let you know everything was okay. Yeah, I know it was. We're all having a good time, even Jared. We miss you too. We'll call every couple days to let you know. All right. Tomorrow night we leave for Orlando. We'll be at Disney for almost a week. We have park tickets for every day. I couldn't believe it. My daughter was setting up her mom. How cool is that? We're staying at the Orleans Hotel right in Disneyland. This is going to be so great. Okay. We'll call you in a couple days. Bye. Jenny, I can't believe you did that. It was really disgusting. I know it was. Lynn and I thought it was appropriate. You know, of course, your mom's on the phone right now about a plane ticket and a room reservation. That's what we thought she should do. She needs a vacation anyway, Lynn interjected. Jared watched the DVD and enjoyed his own company. 2 weeks later, Lynn called her mother. Natalie was very upset because she had been looking for us in Orlando all week. Lynn said we were staying at Six Flags instead and tried to change the subject. Lynn and Jenny kept her on the phone for almost 20 minutes listening to her rant. Jenny finally said she was sorry if she had misled her and would call her back in a couple days. My demon girls giggled for another half hour after hanging up. The next week was hectic. We parked at Smoky Mountains, and the kids were busy while I took care of business. Seymour delivered the divorce papers to Natalie. She had no idea I was doing it until he arrived. He said she was having a seizure. He explained that she could hire an attorney to contest the divorce and told her what she was facing. He had pictures of her and Floyd, the group in room 411, and the results of the DNA test. Jenny and Lynn were mine, but not Jared's. Natalie hired a lawyer, but ended up going along with what Seymour suggested anyway. Seymour visited Big Jared in the hospital in Baltimore. Katie's husband did a great job on him and Martin. Ray was facing about 5 years in prison. I asked Seymour to help him. Both of my wife's lovers were in the hospital for over a week, and while they were recovering, they were served with divorce papers. They had nowhere to go when they checked out. Jared signed a paper giving up all rights to his son Jared. In addition to broken bones and ribs, Ray had literally crushed his genital area with a bat. The doctors had little hope of recovery. Betty Moore had a buyer for the house. She spent a lot of time convincing Natalie to sign all the papers, but finally wore her down. I didn't have to sign anything or attend the closing because of the power of attorney I signed. The summer was quickly coming to an end. I had a chance to develop a good relationship with the kids. I spent a lot of time talking to Jared. He liked the farm where Mom and Dad lived. I asked him if he would like to stay on the farm full-time, and he jumped at the chance. Dad really liked having him around, and I knew he would be happy to take him in. Seymour drew up the adoption papers so that my parents would have the legal authority to provide for him and take care of him. The only thing Seymour didn't like doing was getting Natalie to agree to it. Natalie didn't know it, but Dad had also officially changed Jared's name to Jake. The girls fell in love with school in Burlington. The end of summer in Vermont was beautiful. We spent a few days getting them settled, and then Jake and I headed back to Keystone State. I contacted Mr. Turcott and found out that everything was ready for my move to Alaska. Tracy was already in place and had set up a temporary office. This was good news. She also had an apartment for me and a company car ready for my arrival. I left the motorhome with my dad to get rid of it. 6 months later, everything was finally settled. The divorce was final. The girls did well in school and both received scholarships to James Madison University in Virginia. They were happy and excited to be alone. They hadn't heard from Natalie except for a few phone calls. Jake's grades at school were improving, and he was deeply involved in his new hobby of raising chickens. One day, Natalie came to visit him. She was driving an old Ford Escort and told Dad that she had to sell the Volvo to pay for divorce expenses. It was total bullshit because I ended up paying both lawyers. While she was there, Natalie insisted on calling Jake Jared. Jake corrected her each time and eventually left. Natalie continued to take it out on my dad about how disgusting it was to take away a child's birthright. Dad said it was too easy a chance, so he gave it up and just left with Jake. Jake's mother never came to see him again. She got $11,000 from the sale of the house. She and Kathy decided to celebrate the divorce and went to Las Vegas. All the money was gone in 4 days. I don't know what Natalie is doing now or where she lives. Maybe she moved to Baltimore. Needless to say, I love Alaska. The end